Now, as you develop Java programs, things are not always going to work out as you think they will. And there's a process called debugging to go through your code and see what's happening. And in this video, what I want to do is introduce you to some of the debugging tools that we have available to us as Java developers. First thing I'm going to do is jump over to IntelliJ, and we're going to write a really simple application that we can use to start exploring how we can debug our Java code. Okay, as we work through our debugging example, the first thing I want to do is create a little application for us to work with. So I'm going to come up here, create a new Java class, and we will just call this debug example, like so. And I'm going to add in a main class to that. I'm just using the IntelliJ shortcut there to create the main class. And the example I want to work with is like calculating the square foot for a house. So let's start off with house square foot, like so. And we will initialize that to 0. And let's say that I have a living room. And we will say that room is 20 by 18. And here we can say that the house square feet is going to equal the living room, like so. So that'll reset the house square footage to the square footage of the living room. And let's say I have a bedroom. Call it bedroom 1. And we'll say it's a smaller room, 14 by 15. And here what we're going to do is say the house square feet equals the house square feet plus the bedroom, like so. Say I have another bedroom here, bedroom 2, and we'll make this a little bit bigger bedroom. And again, we'll add that into the house square feet, like so. And here we want the house square feet first. Actually, the order doesn't matter. Just putting that in order just for consistency. And let's give our house also a bathroom. And again, we're going to reset our house square feet to equal the current house square feet plus the value of the bathroom. So pretty simple little application here that we have. It's just going to be adding up some numbers. And at the end, let's output our square footage like so. And actually, I can dress this up a little bit. I can say like that and add that in together. So now when I run this, I will get an output of the current value of the house square footage. And here, the entire purpose of this application is just show us how we are stepping through and resetting that house square footage. And we're adding to it the values of the different rooms that we've created as we went along. So this is going to be our example that we will use for debugging. Now that we have our little Java application developed, I want to show you how we can debug it. First, I'm going to show you the wrong way to debug your code. Now, this is actually, you see this commonly. A lot of people are going to use this technique of using system out to debug their code. And I'm going to show you a couple examples here of the wrong way to debug your Java code, and then we'll get to the right way. Okay, I've got the example application up on the screen, and what you see a lot of people do for debugging is exactly what we've been using as the console output. And I am just going to grab this line here, and you will see people go in and modify their code, something like this. They'll add this in, and they'll do like number 1 like that, and then come up here. And this is to track wherever the house square feet is changing in the application. So they might do something like this to indicate the output of where the output is coming in their application. So I'm just going through here, adding in numbers and numbering the output. And this would become number 4, like so. And now when I run this, this is kind of how some developers would do this. So they would add in the system output and number the output, so now they can see how that house square footage is actually changing as their application runs. So this is a very poor way to, and I'm saying in air quotes, to debug your program. There are actually tools inside of IntelliJ that will help us out with this, but you still see a lot of developers will go and debug their code exactly like this. So using system out is the wrong way to debug your Java code, but I'm guilty of it as well. If I need to do something quick to see a value, I will definitely go back and use system out. So I don't always practice exactly what I preach. However, IntelliJ does have a very robust tool set for debugging code. So I want to show you that. So how we can use IntelliJ to go in and see at the runtime what is happening within our Java program. So I'm going to jump over to IntelliJ and introduce you to the debugger inside of IntelliJ. Now we're going to take a look at the IntelliJ debugger here. And the first thing I want to do is just get rid of these system out statements. So I'm just going to delete these. I think we've seen these enough in the course so far that we don't need further examples of this. So I'm just going to get rid of those, and we'll still keep the final one here. Now, to use the debugger inside of IntelliJ, very, very simple. What we want to do is come over here to the gutter where the numbers are. These are the line numbers of the code. And I want to inspect what the house square footage is at this point here. So I'm going to click there, and you can see I get a red circle. And now if I come up here, actually I can do it right here from the same gutter. So I'm just going to come straight up. I'm going to right click. And now I'm going to click on the debug option. So I'm going to go ahead and run debug like so. And now I reposition this. We can see the different variables that I have initialized here. So you can see a number of things that IntelliJ is doing. If we look at line 5, we can see that the value of the house square foot is 1010. We have the living room value. And you can see that IntelliJ is showing the current value of house square footage, which is 1010. And because we set this breakpoint here, this statement has not executed yet. So right here, we can see the house square foot is going to get set up. When this statement executes, it will get set to 1010 plus 140, which is what our output will be. So if I go ahead and click on the arrow here to resume the program, I'm just going to go ahead and say resume. Click on resume, and then now I can come back over to the console tab and take a look at the output. And we can see that the house square footage got set to 1150. So let me run that one more time. You can see here we have this little green icon, and that is a kind of supposed to be a bug. So we can see a bug action there. And again, I can rerun from here, or I can come up here, say right click, debug, and also in the very top window here, we can see that I have the option to run. This is the arrow to run normally, and then also run and debug. So I'm just going to come down here to the bottom window, run that one more time in the debugger, and we can see that we get right to that breakpoint. That is what that red line is. That is called a breakpoint. This is where I'm telling the debugger I want to stop here and inspect what's happening. And you can see in the IntelliJ window, lower side, I have all the values of the different variables as they've been set. And we can also see on the source code screen, we can see in gray the values of the variables as well. So this is just really scratching the surface of the IntelliJ debugger, but it is a very valuable tool to see what is happening at runtime within your source code. So as you can see, IntelliJ does have very robust features for going in and seeing exactly what's happening inside of our Java code. We can see the variables, what they are currently set to. And do remember, when you are running in the debug mode, there are some system resources that are required to bring the JVM up in debug mode so we can get this information from the JVM. But IntelliJ does have some additional capabilities. I want to show you how you can actually step through your code step by step using IntelliJ. So I'm going to jump over to IntelliJ now and show you that. Now, IntelliJ's debugger does give us a number of options to step through the code. So first thing that we can do is we can actually set up multiple breakpoints. So I'm just going to come in here and set a breakpoint on line number 5. Then I'm going to come here, right click and say debug, run that in the debugger. And we can see that it stops right away at line 5, highlighting that. Now, if I come down here and click on this little green arrow to resume the program, what's going to happen is IntelliJ will advance to the next breakpoint. So automatically jump to that next breakpoint that it finds. Now, if it didn't find a breakpoint, it would just go ahead and run to the termination of the program. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that one more time, and we'll see that the program executes and exits. And we can see here, if I click over to the console, we can see that set up there. So I'm going to come back up here, and we'll run in the debugger one more time. Oh, ran normally. Right click, then hit debug. Now we can see that I'm stopped on line 5. And you have several controls here. You have step over or step into. Right now our process here is pretty simplistic, so not a lot of information that can be available through step into. So if I was going into a method call into another class or something, I could actually drill into that method and debug that method. Here we don't have really any method calls to work with. But the one of interest that I do want to point out is the step over. So if I click on this, we can see that it's going to advance one line at a time. And as I do that, we can see now I'm stepping through the code. Here I've set the living room to 360, but the house square foot has not been reassigned yet. So if I click on this again, we can see now the house square foot did change to the living room value. Bedroom has not been initialized yet or declared. So now I'm going to click on this one more time, and we'll get over that line, and we can see that bedroom 1 was declared and initialized at 210, but the house square foot has not been set to include that value. If I click on this one more time, we can see that that changes. And I can click on this and just scroll through each option up to the point here where I get to the system out statement. And now I can see all the different variables that I've declared and their current values. And if I click on this one more time or proceed, this will go ahead and terminate. And I'm going to run this one more time just to go through this so you can see it one more time. I'm stopping at this breakpoint on line 5. And here I am going to be using the step over. So I'm just going to step over that statement, and you can see that the house square foot got declared and initialized to 0. Living room got declared and initialized at 360. House square foot got set to 360. And I just keep clicking on this and step through the entire program and see how the variables are changing and getting updated real time. And I can take a moment to pause and inspect my logic, make sure that everything is correct. So the IntelliJ debugger is a very, very powerful tool, and it allows you to see a lot of what's happening within your application.